Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Jean Baur. She is a career coach, an author, a speaker, and it is her first time on the show, and I'm honored to have her on the show, so welcome.
Thank you very much.
So which one of those very lofty careers, should I say, would you like to start with her? I want to start with the author first because I always find it interesting when someone decides to write a book. So let's go back in time a little bit and talk about how you came to where you are now.
All right. Well, I come from a family of writers. My grandfather wrote mystery stories, and my dad wrote books about American art, and my sister writes about psychology. So
writers are in the family.
Yeah, no choice.
Yeah,
Genetically
it's in your DNA. Yeah.
And I've written throughout my whole career. I worked as a freelance writer, and wrote fiction, had stuff published, tried to get a novel published. That didn't work. And then after I'd been a career counselor for a number of years, someone said, well, why don't you write a book about what you've learned? So that's when I wrote my first book, which is called Eliminated, Now What? Finding Your Way from Job Loss Crisis.
Boy, is that not appropriate in
to
this,
career resilience?
in this day and age? Wow.
The funny thing about that title, which I love, is Eliminated Now What? But I had a client who used to call it Eliminated So What?
That's great.
Which I thought was...
That's sort of a different philosophy to take on it, for sure.
Yeah.
Eliminated, so what? Yeah.
And that came out in the fall of 2010. And then the sad story is, the year later, I lost my job. I was with a major outplacement firm.
Did you read this book?
Yeah, I did read it. And then, but the publisher of this first book, a wonderful publisher in Indiana, just asked me to write a second book on interviewing. So in the excitement of moving to Connecticut and a job loss and all this stuff, I met my deadline, wrote an interview book, and then there was this deadly silence, and I got really nervous. I called up my friend there who was a publicist, and she said, Jean, I've got bad news. They're not going to publish it.
Oh.
So I have a good friend who had a book published with Career Press, and he said, let's go for it. So the second one, The Essential Job Interview Handbook, came out in 2013.
And that was just having to go with a different publisher, but then you did finally get it out. What's
Yeah.
your opinion of this day and age that we are in about so much self-publishing that happens? You technically can basically self-publish these days. You can write and self-publish.
Yes. I'm a member of CAPA, the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association. I would say maybe 90% or higher of people in that group are self-published. It hasn't been the road I wanted to travel.
What's the difference?
Well, the difference is you don't have a whole team helping you. So I had the most fantastic editor for my first book, and she really shaped the book and made it much better. They said, what do you want on the cover? I gave them ideas, but there was graphic artists to do it. I had somebody else laying the book out. I had somebody else worrying about distribution and somebody else worrying about sales, and I had a publicist working for me. So once I got used to that, I didn't want to...
Yeah, why would you want to do all that extra work for yourself, too? It's the traditional way, and it's what you feel comfortable with.
It is.
You know, maybe if someone doesn't necessarily have the resources or, expects, a huge amount of success with an amount of viewers, I guess, or readers, I should say. Maybe you can go the self-published route, just as a way to sort of like dip your toe in the water for the first time.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. Bookstores, though, typically don't want self-published books because there's the whole issue of returns.
Right.
So if you're with a major publisher, they're taking care of the distribution. You don't have to worry about it.
Plus, there's a chance that maybe it's not edited as well, and there might be, who knows, plagiarism, what else can happen in writing a book and publishing it yourself, for sure. And then there's the whole issue, we might as well talk to you about this, that you are a published author, is the slowly but surely the disappearance of, bookstores and even the paper and bound book in general.
I know.
Libraries, you name it. What's your thought on that? Because you are a writer and your family are writers. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's really important to support your local bookstore.
Not just for your books, right?
No, but Bank Square Book in Mystic is my favorite place, and they're expanding actually into Westerly, which is wonderful. And so all my Christmas shopping and everything else, I go to Bank Square because I really see what they do for the community, and I'm not anti-Amazon, but they're not giving back to the community
Exactly.
the way your local bookstore is.
You could say that about a big box store
Yes.
versus your local, merchant,
That's true.
downtown.
Same thing.
Well, let me ask you this question. If you're a writer and you want people to read, does the method by which they read matter? I mean, does it matter whether it's paper or whether they're doing it on their computer, their laptop, their
I don't
iPad?
think so.
So it doesn't bother you.
No.
So they can swipe
Yep.
as long as they're reading.
Yes.
Because schools, they keep up with the technological times too, and they have all
I know.
iPads in the classrooms
Yes.
too now.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, the real challenge is getting people to read,
Yeah.
period. And actually, both of my books have very short chapters for that reason, intentionally. And both editors, we had a little bit of a struggle over it. They said, Jean, your chapters are too short. And I said, no, they're not. Because...
The attention span of the average person,
yeah,
right?
it's like a mosquito.
You don't want to sit in a movie theater too long, and you don't want to have a
Yeah.
chapter of a book be too long, right?
That's right. So they're short.
Yeah.
You can read them, pick them up an idea. You're in, you're out, you're on your way.
Does the publisher think somehow that, they're not getting their money's worth if the book is too short?
Well, it didn't really have to do the length of the book. It had to do with the length of the chapter. In
Okay.
fact, this book, the interview book, I had to cut 32,000 words for them to publish it.
Wow.
So they wanted it a lot shorter than and they were right.
All right.
They were
So it made sense, the stuff that did get taken out? It was sort of,
yeah.
you could look at the other one as one of your drafts, and obviously
Fluff.
not the final product.
Yeah, fluff.
Didn't need it, no?
Didn't need it.
Yep. You could cut a half hour out of that movie, and it'd be better,
It
right?
was so much better. So that's the wonderful thing, really, about having that team. And they know the market, they know how to sell books better than I do. So they're like, no, if this interview book had been that long, they would have had to price it higher, and it would have priced me out of the category.
So these books certainly have a common theme. Eliminated Now What? The interview handbook, it's about jobs, it's about career.
Yes.
And in the times that we are in now, would you describe the times that we are in now as like having come out of the recession? Are we out of it? The thing that I would put a question mark next to that, because I'm not sure as far as businesses whether they're fully hiring back what they had before the recession.
I would agree with you. I think it's better than it was. We're creeping back. I think we still have a ways to go.
Slowly, very slowly,
Yes.
and steadily.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
So,
there are jobs out there.
how do people find them?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah. What do we do?
Well, last night, as I mentioned to you earlier, I was speaking at the Russell Library in Middletown, and my talk was called Turn Off Your Computer and Get a Job.
Yeah.
Because most people are addicted to searching online, on the internet, and they spend all their time there, and then they wonder why their phone doesn't ring. So
Now, when you say searching online, are they looking for work, or are they on social media just kind
No,
of
they're looking for work and answering online ads.
Okay.
And spending hours and hours and hours filling in the ads, the applications, then attaching their resume, then hoping something's going to happen, and nothing happens.
As far as job listings, isn't that where all the employers are listing the job openings online, or at least one of the places?
It is one of the places, but it's not the best way to go, from my opinion.
Okay. So you need to get in there, you need to submit resumes in person, fill out applications, that kind of thing?
No, because that's really almost doing the same thing. What I suggest is diversifying your methods so that if you can answer ads online, you can answer ads wherever you can find them, you can go to company websites, but you also want to have a proactive list of companies, like this is where I really want to work. You need to network, and you need to target employers directly. So if I wanted to work here, I would find out your name, your email you a very strong target email with no resume, but just showing that I'd done my homework, I knew what you might need, and introducing myself, and then letting you know I'm going to follow up.
You're hired. Oh,
Thank you.
And you didn't even supply. So now, what's the reason for not submitting the resume with it so they can kind of look at your
Too much too
experience?
soon.
Okay, too much.
Yeah, and once you attach a resume, you're a Joe Schmo job seeker.
Right. You kind of get put into the drawer, maybe.
You get sent off to HR.
Okay.
And then your resume is never read, and then it's at the end of the sad
So
story.
what you want to do is you want to pique their interest.
Yes.
And make them want to learn more, so that they
Yes.
have to somehow communicate with you
Yes,
again.
exactly right. Less is more.
Right. And
Yeah.
it works, right?
It does work.
If you get a potential employer to reach out to you, I mean, that's most of the battle. That's at least half the battle right there, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you've done your homework, you know something about them, the two things that have to happen for it to really work is there has to be a budget and a need. If they don't have the money and they don't have a need, they may say, very nice to meet you, but go away. So some of it's luck.
So what would be the reason that companies in general are sort of starting to get back into hiring, but they're not? I think what it is they're learning how to live leaner.
Yes, I think that's so
And,
true.
and so that means less jobs. They are hiring some back, but
Yeah.
they've been forced to live leaner, to work leaner, to
Yes.
exist leaner.
Yes, and unfortunately, many employees have had to do 2 jobs instead of 1
Yeah.
with no change in pay.
And there's the dreaded term of underemployed. You used to either be employed or unemployed.
Now you
there's
can be underemployed. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you could be.
So for those that don't know what that means, what is that?
Well, that means taking a job that's well below your education, training, and past experience. Just it's a job. It's a
Right,
filler.
right.
But it's not really using you in the full way that your previous jobs did.
Yeah, you're working half capacity and
Yes.
maybe half time too. You
And
know?
way less pay.
Yeah, and hopefully it's temporary. Hopefully,
Yes.
if you were smart, like you were talking about, you would be utilizing that extra time that you're not working, maybe out on the job hunt. Is there such a thing as, should you still, because you say stay offline a little bit and diversify, should you still, quote unquote, pound the pavement? I know that's a sort of very generic term, but
Well, it's interesting. There's an instructor over at Connecticut Works or American Job Centers here who Rob Austin teaches a wonderful class called A Confidence Makeover, and he's a great believer in pounding the pavement and showing up. You know, dressing for the interview, showing up, talking to the receptionist, seeing if you can get your way in. I personally don't like to do that. I'm not a shy person, but I just don't like it.
do you think it's too intrusive, or you're
I
kind
think
of
it's-
overbearing when you
I
do
think
that
it's
a little
intrusive,
bit?
and I just think you're setting yourself up for rejection. And why look for it? You know, there's plenty without looking for it. So I like the target email. So the email first, then a follow-up phone call, which is the job seeker's responsibility. Then maybe you are asked to send your resume in. Then maybe you meet. So meeting is actually about fourth down, not the first step.
You think job seekers fall short when they don't? A lot of them won't. They'll send the email and they'll kind of expect things to just start rolling on their own without doing that follow-up phone call. Obviously, doing themselves a disservice and possibly, eliminating their chances of getting the job that way.
Follow-up's critical.
Yeah.
You have to be relentless. I keep a spreadsheet so I know, okay, it's Wednesday. These are the people I need to call.
How do you strike a balance without being overbearing or over anxious or any adjective you want to use there, but also doing it enough so they know you're interested?
Well, one trick I've learned is to switch it up. So I'll tell you a quick story. I'm trying to get a new book published, but it's not a career book. It's a book about my dog.
I would read that book.
Yes,
I'm a dog fan.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, she's a therapy dog and rescued from Puerto Rico, and quite a story. So, and this book is tentatively titled at the end, There Is a Dog, because she works with nursing home patients. She works here at L&M Hospital, the Waterford Cancer Center, and with special needs children in the Deans Mill Elementary School. So I identified this publisher because she published another dog book that I love. I sent her a card with Bella's photo on it, and then with a typed up letter showing my credentials, telling her about the book. She emailed me back, yeah, interesting, send your proposal. I sent the proposal. Then a month went by, I followed up, nothing. Another month went by, I followed up.
Were you getting frustrated at this point?
No, I know the publishing
Okay.
world. I mean, yes, I
You're
was,
used
but
to
I
it,
also
yeah.
knew, I've been beat up a lot. So
But the first time you don't get responses, that must really be.
it's hard.
Yeah.
So then I knew it was the holiday, so I backed off a little bit. And then I was on Twitter looking for something else, and I saw a tweet from her. Not directed to me, not directed to my book, but just as sort of a general tweet. So I tweeted her back and said, "Happy New Year, hope to hear from you soon." That's all I said.
Was that this past New Year that just
Yeah,
passed? Oh.
Yeah. And she's like, "Oh, Jean, I've been meaning to get back to you. I'm showing the book to my director either this week or next, so I'll know next week."
So now it's
Yes.
the next, maybe a few more little nudges or bugs.
Yeah, but I have to give her a couple weeks. now.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
So now you're at that. It's important to know how much leeway to give, how much time to give too, so that again you're not coming across as kind of
Yes.
over aggressive, I guess, right?
But by switching it from email to Twitter, I think actually helped me.
Right.
I think I kind of surprised her.
Right. Maybe, you know why? Because Twitter is social and
Yeah.
email is more work related. I don't want to be bothered with
Yes.
all the work email. And maybe
Yeah.
you're kind of blended in with 50 other emails or something. But Twitter's more personal. It's
Yep.
more social. It is social media after all.
After all.
And because of that, you got her attention.
I did.
you know.
So we'll see.
Without necessarily looking like you're stalking her.
Yes, no, you
right?
can't do that.
Right. They tend to frown on that.
Yeah, it's just,
One of the things that I want to go back to when we're kind of talking about, pounding the pavement and going into places, a lot of places nowadays, the local people might not be in a position to be able to help you at all because all they can do is refer you to their corporate HR people.
That's
There's a
right.
lot of places where you can only apply online
That's right.
to work at a place. So you might almost be, depending on the company, wasting your time by, even though local is supposed to always be good,
Well, that's one of the worst things about job fairs is you go there, you dress up, you wait in line, you finally get to that person, and then they say if you're interested, apply online.
Yeah, what is the point? Yeah.
Yeah, why
You should just have a big sign up that says that, and I don't have to waste my day here,
On the other hand, sometimes you have interviews right there at the job fair, so
Right.
you don't know.
That's the whole reason you want to go there in the first place.
That's right.
Right. Let's take a break and come back. Why don't you give out your website for people to go and
Yes,
learn more?
it's JeanBaur.com, JeanBaur.
Very simple website. We will take a short break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. Jean Baur, writer, career counselor, speaker. I already said author, writer, so same
That's
thing.
okay.
A lot of titles, and amazingly, they all fit not even snugly on one business card. So it's very organized and it looks well. But that's important too, especially when you're getting into, you wrote a book on interviews, but there's a lot of other things that are important too in that whole job seeking process, like the resume, and
Right.
And everything should look good. And so one other thing I want to talk about in this segment is, aside from the many things that you do, you also teach a class. It's called Boomers Back to Work. What is
Yes.
that?
It's a class for the mature worker, as I like to call myself. I don't use the word old. And it's two pieces, 2 half days, really looking at strategy. So what makes a successful search? How do you succeed, especially if there's age issues as part of the
And that's
challenge.
a new, a new segment of society now. The senior job seeker, because that seems to be a reality, a fact of life.
Yes.
And that has got to be very daunting for the more mature job seeker. What do they do? Who wants to hire them? What are their qualifications? That must be very difficult for them.
Well, one of the exercises we do early on the first morning is an age exercise where I have them write down what do they see as the main advantages of being a mature worker, and then we share them with the whole group. And it's really amazing when you look at the experience, the ability to solve problems, customer service, not having to be trained. I mean, it goes on and on. There's really wonderful strengths that we have as people who have worked a while. And some people take the class who are in their 30s and 40s, and that's fine too. But it's really designed for the 50 and up. And
Is it for people who aren't quite ready for retirement yet, or maybe even so, but still want to work? But if you're in that 50 plus, you still may not have reached retirement age yet, right?
many people haven't.
Yeah.
And given the economy, people are now working well into their 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So
By necessity.
by
right?
necessity, and
Yeah.
some by choice.
Yeah.
But more by necessity. Yeah.
So back, Boomers Back to Work. Is it a weekly, a bi-weekly class? How does it work?
Well, it's offered at the Department of Labor. We're now called American Job Centers.
And we talked about that.
Yes.
You kind of like the old name better.
I
You
do.
seem more simple, I guess.
Connecticut
right?
Works used
Yeah.
to be called, but anyway, Department of Labor. So I teach here in Danielson. Here in New London. I teach in Danielson, Norwich, and Willimantic. And anybody can just contact Department of Labor in Connecticut and look for Boomers Back to Work, or go to my website. And
Right. And there's a full listing. You got some dates coming up.
Yes.
By the way, if you're watching the show after the dates that you mentioned the classes are on a regular basis. So don't necessarily just go by these dates. You can go on the website and I
Yes.
guess and find out.
Yeah, they're going on all the time.
Ongoing.
So in New London, I'll be here March 13th and 27th. So that's again 8:30 to 12 of those 2 days, 13th and 27th of March. Danielson, February 4th and 18th, and Norwich, February 6th and 20th.
How long are the classes?
They're 8:30 to 12,
Okay.
so they're 2 half days. By signing up for one, you're automatically signed up for the second half. And then there's that 2-week gap so that people have a chance to try things. So when we come back, if they come back. No, when they come back, then we have a chance to see, well, what worked, what didn't work. So they have homework in that 2-week time between part 1 and part 2 of the boomer class.
Hey, if they didn't come back, maybe there's a chance they went back to work. That's always a possibility,
oh
right?
yeah, and people email me and say, Gene, I'm sorry I can't make it, I'm working.
And you're like, great, that's perfect.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. Yeah, it's good.
You do some work in Westerly too, because a lot of people from Rhode Island are watching the show today.
Good.
You just did some speaking, is it speaking engagement in Westerly?
Yes, at the Westerly Library, not too recently, but I speak at a lot of libraries, and Westerly was one of them. And you know, Rhode Island is so close, and, easy to speak there. I've been talking to the Providence Library, but that hasn't quite happened yet, so we'll see.
And you know, I'm sure both Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, everywhere else, they're all fans of the books, I would imagine, right? How can people get a copy? I know it's pretty much sold everywhere, right?
Yeah, in fact, it's interesting on Amazon. I didn't know this till recently. You can look and do a geographical search to see where your book's sold.
Oh.
And my books seem to sell
Well, that's great.
mostly on the 2 coasts, West Coast but then there's weird places, you know, like they sell in Indiana. I don't know why.
Yeah, you know, sometimes there's not a lot to do in the Midwest.
Is that
so,
it?
You know, so and you know what? Honestly,
Yeah.
You know, there's probably a lot of people out of work in
Yes.
the Midwest.
Yes.
You know, so any
Yes.
book can help if
Yeah.
it can help them get back to work.
Yep.
Are there downloadable versions of your book on the iPad or
Yes.
Kindle and stuff like that?
Yep,
Okay.
Nook and Kindle. Just look again on my website. All the resources are there. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, independent bookstores, your local library, you can find it.
And I know you're, you know, as a writer, old-fashioned pen-to-paper type writer, although you're probably using a computer to write.
Use a computer.
You're
Yes.
probably, you know, you're not, you advocate going to libraries, public libraries, or local bookstores too, you know, because, you know, slowly but surely those mom and pops seem to be going away, don't they?
Well, the independent bookstore is a great resource, as is the public library. And in all my talks to job seekers, I always say, don't forget your reference librarian. Those people know a tremendous amount of information, especially local information, that can really help you.
And they you take you right to the section where a book you're looking for is at. They don't even need to go to the, you know, to go to the computer to find it. They're so versed in their job. Oh, it's section 3, shelf 4. You know.
Yeah, and
to be
not
able
just
to help
finding
you.
books, but
Yeah.
let's say you were trying to create a list of companies in a certain industry in a certain location, and you didn't know how to do it. Go talk to your reference librarian. They'll help you do it. I mean, they're amazing. They can find anything.
When you're speaking or people are asking you questions, and maybe you've included some of this stuff in your book, when people are trying to get back to work or go to work for the first time or whatever, what are some of the questions they ask you? What are some of the first questions they ask you? How does a person get started? It can be a daunting task. There's so much to know, you know, and these books help, but what should they do first? How do you get yourself organized to get going and get out there?
I think what I start with first as a career coach is, what do you really want to do? Because if you're looking for something and you really don't want to do it, or you just kind of sort of maybe want to do it, the search probably isn't going to be that successful.
Yeah.
So I want to find out, what do you really want to do, but what's also practical. And it's interesting. I never forget this one woman I worked with, and she said to me, Gene, I want to be a school teacher. And I'm like, okay, that's good. Have you ever taught? No. And I'm just getting this feeling from her. It was like, I don't think you're going to be a very good teacher. It was terrible, but that's what I was thinking.
You can't say that to her, though, right?
No. So
Yeah.
what I said was, listen, I want you to do me something. Do me a favor before you go down this long path, because it's expensive and time-consuming. I want you to find, you know, because she wanted to teach in the elementary school. So you've got to go to 2 different schools and spend 2 full days shadowing a teacher. 2 different teachers, 2 different schools. Will you do it? Yes. So a few weeks later, she comes back. She's shaking her head. She comes in. She said, I don't know what I was thinking. She said, I do not want to be a school teacher.
That was a way for you to show her that she wouldn't be good at this job without you telling her you didn't think she'd be
And
good
I
at this
didn't
job.
know really that
Yeah.
she wouldn't. But the point was, the interest wasn't there when she saw what it really was involved.
How about somebody who wants to, as opposed to look for work per se, change professions, change careers maybe? Do you get much of that?
Lots,
Yeah.
because, you know, it used to be we stayed in one job and one career, and that was that.
Right.
And then we got the gold watch, and then,
Right.
then it was over. Then it was, okay, one career but a bunch of different jobs. And now it's really a bunch of different careers and a bunch of different jobs. So I think I'm on about my 4th or 5th career. I mean,
Well, there's like 3 of them right on this card
I
here,
know,
right there.
I'm telling you. And who knows where I'll be next.
Right.
So, so that's where networking becomes so important, because let's say I wanted to get into radio interviewing. If I could get you to talk to me and give me pointers and help me understand what's required, then I can see if it's something.
Look at, now she wants to steal my
I
job
know,
now
I'm telling
too.
you,
Yeah.
you've got to watch these people.
Oh boy. Well, luckily we're out of time. So again, they can get your books anywhere. Now you're working on a 3rd book, right?
Yes, I am. Totally different, not a career book.
All right. It's about your dog, Bella.
Yes, Bella. It's called At the End There Is a Dog.
I got to see Bella on her iPhone. And it's going to be a good-looking dog. You're going to like that book, so go check it out.
Thank you.
Jean Baur, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
All right. Well, Jean Baur, we look forward to your next book, and we will check out these books in the meantime. So thanks.
Thank you very much.
That's our show for today. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. Until next time, I'm Sean Murphy. Take care.